were having a couple technical difficulties.
No, I'm glad it worked. Hi, Gabi.
Hey, Maddie.
Oh my God, I haven't talked to you forever.
I know. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Due to the circumstances that we're currently in, I'm okay, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if you want, we can start whenever, but it's just like was giving people a couple minutes also because we just joined with you.
Right.
But yeah, it looks like we have some viewers because it was also telling me that like some people were unable to join, so
Right.
I just want to make sure like everything's okay.
Okay. We can wait, I guess, a minute or two.
Yeah.
Anyway, how's Hofstra?
Hostra's good.
Good.
Yeah. In case
Okay.
you can't tell, I'm like very active on campus.
Yes.
I am the face of the Hofstra TikTok, so
That's awesome.
never
Okay.
expected that to be me.
Okay.
How's
I love to hear it.
basketball?
It's good. Last year we went to the NCAA. This year it was a pretty good year. We didn't have as much success as we did last year, but next year is going to be pretty good. We have a lot of great girls coming back, and it should be a good year. We should hopefully take it all the way.
Good,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
It was crazy because Hofstra, the men at Hofstra, it was the first time since like 2006 or something they went to the NCAA, and then coronavirus,
Right.
and everyone was so upset. Oh my God,
Yes.
it was crazy.
It's so unfortunate that so many like seniors had to end their season off this way. Like it was just a shame. Like
I know.
a lot of people couldn't finish their year out. It's unfortunate, really.
I know. I really just feel bad. Like it is what it is, but I also just like it totally sucks.
It really does. Because, like, these people worked hard. And for some seniors, it was, like, their first time, getting in. So,
Yeah.
it happens, I guess.
Yeah. All right, let's just, like, start. Because
Okay, awesome.
before, like I was saying in my Instagram post, like, and I know you and I talked a little beforehand, but for anybody watching, we didn't really, like, have a structured plan. I just wanted to bring you in because you've been super active with everything going on, and I wanted to give you the platform on my account to talk about what's going on and to kind of have an open dialogue about it because obviously I'm white, so I don't have the same experiences that you have, and I feel like I don't know, I feel like I wanted to do like something different, something more, and obviously I wanted to just talk to you, Gabi, because it's been like years, but
it's been a while.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know me, because you're from Gabi's account, my name is Maddie Mento. I go to Hofstra University. I'm now a senior. Oh my God, that's gonna make me vomit.
Literally.
I am a public relations major, and the way Gabi and I know each other is because we went to Rutgers Prep together all throughout high school and middle school. And then Gabi, if you want to introduce yourself to my Hofstra people.
Right. So, hello, everyone who doesn't know me. My name is Gabi Redden. Like Maddie said, we knew each other from high school and middle school. I currently am at Wright State University. I'm about to be a senior, well, redshirt junior, and I'm studying political science and journalism. I think I'll finish political science first. I hope I can finish journalism before my senior year is up. But yeah, that's my story. And I'm on the women's basketball team.
I didn't know you were studying political science. What do you think you want to do?
Originally, I studied political science mainly because I wanted to go into law after school, and utilize my grad year to start law school, basically. Mm-hmm. And that's originally what I wanted to go, but I kind of I had a newfound epiphany of what I actually want to do, which is basically write for television, write movies, screenplays, and stuff like that.
Okay.
I feel like that's my dream.
Yeah.
But I can, down the line, I can always get my law degree and pass the bar and stuff like that. There's plenty of time to do all that. You don't have to technically pick, one avenue of a career. So that's totally where I am now.
Leaving options open.
Right.
I'm actually, I was just telling Macy. Macy's my sister, for anyone who doesn't know. Gab knows her very well.
Yeah.
I was just telling Macy that I am like coming into this today with like tears in my eyes, and I was trying to like get them out before we started.
Yeah.
Because I shouldn't have been scrolling through Instagram before this, but like, how can I not? And I watched one video of a woman screaming in the middle of the night in New York City in the streets about like how the rioters and the looters have like been destroying her city and like that she lives in public housing and now like it's destroyed and it's literally like making me emotional like thinking about watching it, but like it was just really powerful. And I guess like we can start there and just like talk about the riots, because I know like people have different opinions about like rioting versus protesting versus looting. So I just want to ask you like how you feel about that. Like, what's your opinion on the looting and the riots? I would say, because obviously protesting, I feel like there's no debate. Like, I feel like for me, I'm like, why are we even having conversations about like, I don't know. I posted this tweet. I'm sorry, I'm like rambling now, but I posted this tweet to my Instagram story that was like, LMAO, why is racism such a debate? Like why is it not obvious to people? And I feel like that's kind of how I'm feeling too. So if you want to talk about like how you feel about the riots and the looting, then we can talk about that a little, I think.
Right. Well, my stance on the rioting is, I remember there was a significant in the midst of everything by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., where he said rioting is the language of the unheard. So I think that when you have no other way of bringing attention to an issue that has been prolonged for, oppression has been directed towards the Black community for approximately 400 years. In the civil rights era, which happened maybe 60, 70 years ago, that's when Blacks started marching and protesting and stuff like that. So I think that all those years of marching and demanding for it to be treated with the same respect and to demolish oppression, 70 years of that, and with so little progression, it's like, what other means of accumulating attention to the issue can these people do? Their voices are constantly silenced, their problems are never heard, and I just think that it's evident that this is a monster that was created by white oppressionists. So I mean, I'm not saying that I agree with rioting, because there's a lot of Black businesses that have been destroyed because of these rioters and these the looters. Let's also talk about those anarchists that are being planted in the midst of rioting. That a lot of people said that they found that some police officers were planted and in the midst of the rioters to cause more chaos. But it's the language of the unheard, and I'm upset that a lot of businesses had to be, I guess you could say, demolished because of it. But I mean, I understand, and it's justified where it's coming from.
Yeah, I have to agree. I just want to say, like, the people watching, that like we're trying to just have like an open dialogue about this. And please feel free to like use the comments, because we would love to know like what you guys think too about this. But it's definitely interesting, because like I'm just trying to listen and like absorb what you're saying. And you used a lot of like they language and like for the protesters. I want to know like how you yourself, like, obviously I watch your Instagram stories and stuff, but how you yourself are tying yourself to the movement and what you've been up to, besides, you know, what I can see from your Instagram, and that kind of stuff, you know, like, because this is not like a one-time thing. Like, this is such like ongoing movement, and I don't want to like put you in a place that you don't feel comfortable talking about, but I just want to know like what your involvement is, maybe.
Well, my personal involvement has been, aside from protesting and aside from being out there amongst the people and just being a part of the unified movement, I have been donating to certain organizations that have brought attention to certain deaths, especially according to women, in regards to the Black women that have been killed due to the violence of police brutality. That's what I've been putting my money and putting my attention towards, because often Black women, their deaths are swept under the rug. No one ever accounts for them. They don't get as much media coverage. And I just think that we do live in a patriarchal society, which I do understand. However, I don't think that that's a justified reason to ignore the many deaths of women that are being that aren't being, that don't get the same attention. Black women are very unprotected. They're like, and I think the longer that we continue to sweep these deaths under the rug, the more Black women are detached from the movement. Because a lot of Black women I know have been, you know, like Sandra Bland, Corrine Gaines, Breonna Taylor. There's too many deaths upon, on Black female sides that just irks my soul, basically. So that's where I've been putting most of my attention and my money, you know. There's many GoFundMe's that are out there that people can put their money to. So that's kind of where the direction that I currently stand. I'd say back in high school, remember when the Ferguson happened, it was, with me, it was more of like black men that I was focused on, especially because I have two brothers and I see the deaths of these men in my brothers. So, but now I definitely would say that there was a shift for me.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk, let's talk about it, because I, quite frankly, am so, angry for a lot of reasons, but that, Breonna Taylor was, shot and killed in her own home.
Yes.
And no one's been arrested, no one's been tried,
nope.
And I don't want to say no one's talking about it, because they are talking about it in her hometown, but obviously what happened to George Floyd is horrific and we should be writing about that. But Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud just happened a few weeks ago too. I'm just when is it enough? And you're so right that I just can't understand why. Is it a patriarchy thing? Why women of color aren't getting the same attention? Because they have a lot of the similar struggles that Black men of color do, you know?
Yes. It bothers me only because when a lot of Black women bring up their frustrations with the constant killings that many of us have experienced, or different occasions where police brutality was directed towards us, it doesn't get, the Black men, especially in our community, sometimes don't quite take it seriously, you know? And I feel like that separates us. That's like a sexism, it's separates us in one form of another. And I feel like even this, on Instagram, there's a trend going on where a black man would post himself, and then it would just, in his caption, it would just be Black men this, Black men that, Black men this, Black men that. And then Black women are starting to do this, Black women this, Black women that. I would like to see more unification in regards to the Black movement or the Black Lives Matter movement together. I feel like it's been very divisive, and unfortunately, and that's kind of disappointing to see, because the divide and conquer tactic that has been utilized against our community for a long time as well. And I feel like that's just fulfilling it even more, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think that's when I get overwhelmed, is when I realize how many systemic issues there are. And we're starting with this one, right? That's about police brutality against Black men. That's an issue. And then police brutality against Black women. That's an issue. Why isn't it getting attention? That's a feminist issue, and also people of color issue. It's all intersectional, but when you think about it that much, it gets overwhelming. And I recognize that I have the privilege to be overwhelmed by that, you know, because I don't experience it. And so I am privileged to have a choice to ignore it or to walk away from it. And I hope that after this moment is over, we don't lose that, you know?
Right. Yes, I agree. I hope the want and the urgency that is occurring right now occurs even more so in different facets of oppression or different faces of oppression that are in America, or that Black people face in America. I hope people continue to have the urgency to help demolish those, because it's important. It's not just about protesting. Protesting is just one small fragment of the Black Lives Matter movement. We have to start supporting Black businesses. We have to put policies in effect that don't degrade certain races and stuff, and don't keep certain races asunder. For example, public housing. It's very difficult for Black people. It's very difficult for Black people in regards to public housing. Like, there's just many different systemic racist issues that we have been subjected to for a long time, and these institutions need to be knocked down.
Yeah. And I'm just reading like some of the comments that are coming in, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder about like fake urgency, like I don't know who this person is that just texted this, but like this person is so right in saying like people tend to ride the wave and join the moment. And I remember like this is kind of different,
Yeah,
but
Sally.
yeah, I remember it's intersectional but different. A few years ago at Hofstra, or I guess 2 years ago, I haven't been there that long. Tarana Burke came to campus to do a talk about the Me Too movement.
Right.
And she was saying at the end of her talk, like, I really hope this isn't just a moment and it doesn't just like die in a few weeks. And I don't want to say it kind of did, but it kind of did, you know? And it makes me sad that like issues and social justice issues become a trend. Which, I mean, I guess we can talk about the Black Squares thing and the Blackout Tuesday thing.
Yes.
Because I posted one, like, but there's a lot of conflicting thoughts from both Black people of color and non-people of color on what that meant to them. So I guess, what did it mean to you?
I think the Black Squares time, that short day, I believe that it was kind of, I mean, it did show whether or not you were supporting the movement, I would say, because so many people did it. And however, I don't think that settling with just uploading a Black square onto your Instagram profile is doing much for the cause, other than just you portraying to the world that you do see the oppression that Black people face. I would like to see more people. Okay, money's power. Money's power. It is. I'd like to see more people support Blacks in a monetary facet. I don't just want your support. Okay, what is your? I don't want your support. I do want your support, but I just don't want it in the most basic level. I would like to see you speaking out on these injustices in your community, the community that's doing the oppressing. If you can educate them, that'll help. If you put your money and aid Black businesses, that'll help. If you put your money in certain way in different, I guess you could say, avenues in the community that do help Blacks, that would help even more. I do believe, like, okay, it showed your support, but I feel like it's the bare minimum. We have to stop doing the bare minimum when it comes to these things. So that's just how I felt in regards to the blackout.
Yeah, I get that. And I think there was like an original point to this. And if anyone can fact check me on this in the comments, please do. But I believe there was like a point to it that wasn't what it ended up being. Like the Black squares, like I'm pretty sure that it was for like the music industry or like the entertainment industry to like black out the entertainment because there was like the show needs to be paused. I don't know. There was like a lot of facets to it that I feel like the original meaning got lost in the fog of everything. But before I forget, I just wanted to say that you keep mentioning Black businesses, and a great way to support the Black community is to purchase stuff from the Black businesses. So if anyone has Black businesses that they know of or that they want to see supported, please comment them down below.
Please do that.
Oh,
please.
The comments are like blowing up. I'm like, what are
we gotta add a couple of these.
Yeah.
Tanisha said a lot of people didn't understand the point of the Black squares. A lot of people woke up, just posted it, but how many signed petitions or even reached out on the phone lines? That's so true. We can't, it's like a bare minimum tactic. Yeah.
And there are so many ways. And I do want to like make a plug for mental health because like, obviously this is a really tough time that we're all going through, but specifically that the Black community is going through. And like I said before, like I have the privilege to turn it off, and white people have the privilege to turn it off and to walk away from the issue. So as hard as it is to watch the videos and to like post this stuff and to scroll through Instagram right now, I hope that people will see beyond like their being uncomfortable, like white
Right.
people
Mhm.
specifically, because it is uncomfortable, because it's
Right.
violent, and it's like
Yes.
this is real life though. And
Mhm.
I think I really hope we can see more white people be continuous allies and not
Mhm.
just for the moment, you know. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I know like mental health in the Black community, like that, it's like so important right now, because
Yes.
like I can't imagine
Hmm.
being a Black person and doing the same things I'm doing, like scrolling and posting and
Right.
writing, and like it's just a completely different perspective. And I hope you know like that you were supported like by me,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
that if like I just want to do a mental health check for you, like
Mhm.
if you're comfortable
Yes.
talking about it, like how are you doing, you know?
Mentally, I have, unfortunately, okay, so let me talk about my personal experience. So, mentally, I think I am in a safe space, mainly because I do have the support of not only my family, but also my coaches, my teammates. They are a big part of keeping me level. But a lot of Blacks do not have the different outlets to express how they're doing and how their mental state of mind is. A lot of us actually, this is one toxic thing that happens in the Black family unit, where we're constantly taught, it's been ingrained in our minds since we were children, that we have to continue to rise up, and it's weak of us to fall and to have mental health issues. In the Black family, mental health, it's just now starting to, I guess you can say, have an effect on us, or have a positive effect on us on checking Black mental health. But a couple years ago, back in the day, a lot of people say is, you were taught to suck it up. You were taught to, kids, don't cry, don't be a weakling. It's looked down upon to show your emotions. And I do feel like that is very toxic, and that dismisses Black emotion, and that dismisses Black humanity, almost in a sense, that we have to constantly be strong and constantly be in a place where we have to kind of not acknowledge our mental health, and we just have to look past it. And I do feel like that has caused a lot of issues, post-traumatic stress in stress disorder, especially, our emotions are valid. We got to suck it up. So I do agree that I do feel like Black mental health needs, a lot of Blacks need to take care of their mental health. I do have a stable environment, so I guess I'm lucky in that way.
Yeah, it makes me like really sad because
Mhm.
even like beyond this movement and the moment that we're in and the violent aspect of it, like that's
Mhm.
traumatizing, right? But then
Right.
just like being a person is
Mhm.
hard, and like
Exactly.
I've had my own struggles with anxiety and depression, and I've been
Mhm.
fortunate enough to like have a therapist, have a psychiatrist,
Right.
like go and deal with my mental health. And I can't
Mhm.
imagine not feeling like I could access those resources, you know?
Right.
And I think
Mhm.
it comes down like I don't want to keep saying intersectionality because I know that's also controversial, but like it is because somehow the mental health movement
Mhm.
itself separately of this has become a
Right.
white movement, and it's
Right.
like everyone needs mental health services, everyone has
Mhm.
their own mental health struggles, and so it makes me sad that Black people, like obviously a lot makes me sad right now, but like that Black people aren't allowed the same resources and outlets that we are for some reason. Like why do you think that is? Like why like obviously mental health is stigmatized, but why is it particularly stigmatized for people of color? I don't know if you know the answer. I'm just
Mm, I think it's one part of it being stigmatized against people of color is, it has to do with a dehumanization of people of color. It kind of roots back to slavery times, where we weren't seen as full human. I think it was back in the day. What was that? I think it was three thirds of a fifth was the phrase of like how much humanity Black people actually had. We were only third percent
oh
human out
three
of five, I
fifths.
think.
Yeah.
3/5,
Yeah.
excuse me. So yeah, so and also like I do feel like those effects of what happened in slavery and that mindset has trickled down through the centuries and kind of dehumanizes in our current state today. So I do feel like I hate to root all things in slavery, but that's kind of where it all came from. So I do believe that
Yeah.
that's one of the main reasons, because we were slaves and we were enslaved and we weren't seen as full humans. So
I
I
want
do
to talk
feel
about
like
that because
mm-hmm,
about slavery.
mm-hmm,
And this might get heated,
mm-hmm,
and feel free to sound off in the comments, anyone watching. But anytime I talk to white people about slavery, and I
mm-hmm,
know a couple of the people I'm thinking of in my head are watching this, so please don't take offense.
right, right,
Every time I talk about slavery or bring up the Black Lives Matter movement and attach it somehow to slavery, they're like, oh, you can't talk about slavery. Like, it's not about slavery. Like, we're so past
mm-hmm,
slavery. Like, that's degrading the Black community. That's taking them back, like, many years, and we've come so much farther than that. What do you think about that? Because if that's true, I'm happy to change my perspective, but I just want to know, like, what a person of color thinks about referencing slavery when talking about the Black Lives Matter movement.
mm-hmm. I do think that the issues that we are marching for today is because of the damage that was done all those years ago. If these occurrences and events of history did not take place, we would not be having all these issues. This is basically a manifestation of the numerous years of Black oppression from slavery all the way down to the Black Lives Movement that have compiled themselves and created a monster. So I think that a lot of whites like to shy away from slavery regarding to the Black Lives Movement because not only of white guilt, but also because they don't, just because slavery isn't, people aren't chained up and stuff like that. There's all those different forms of modern slavery that has been perpetuated against us that seems to be behind the scenes. So I think it's a form of white guilt, and they don't like, a lot of people don't like to talk about things that make them uncomfortable. So I feel like that is also in one part of it, I'd say.
Yeah. And it sounds to me like you think it should be part of the conversation. And I'm reading the comments and I feel like people agree that it should be part of the conversation. So I think it's really hard because I think white people have a really hard time, from my perception, addressing things that make them uncomfortable because it's our fault,
Right.
So I
You
like,
said,
it is.
Yeah.
And I want to have the right conversation, but I want to have an open conversation. And just in general, I mean, like, I feel like this has been pretty good. I mean, the comments can tell us if I'm wrong, but I want to be able to talk about, like,
thank you. Sorry,
about,
I'm
like,
sorry. I need my chargers. My phone's about to die.
No.
My apologies. But go ahead. I'm listening.
I don't even know what I was saying. I was definitely just rambling. But I just hope, like, slavery and racism and the root causes of these issues can be part of the conversation, and it's okay to be uncomfortable. And I think a lot of the times white people are like, I'm not racist. And it's like this, like, crazy, like, you get so defensive, because you don't want to come off as racist. But I went to this, like, I didn't go anywhere, but I logged on to this allyship training last night that my school was hosting. And we had to, like, address our implicit biases and the ways that we have maybe been racist, even though we don't mean it. And I think, I mean, I'll just ask you, like, what are the most common implicit biases that you see around you? Maybe microaggressions we can talk about in your life,
I'd say microaggressions that a lot of Blacks face, especially Black professionals, are definitely in the workplace. Whenever there's a form of static that goes on between a black worker and their white counterpart in a professional atmosphere, especially with black women, it's turned on to us. We're called aggressive. We're called angry, and just multiple, I guess you could say, stereotypes that they press upon us into. It's like another form. It's like an implicit bias, basically, was basically what it is. So I that's one that I constantly see. Another also is relating back to the protests. And the riots that are and looting that's occurring. Many different, I guess you could say, adjectives that these commentators use or like these broadcasters use is thug, aggressive, criminal, and as opposed to white protesters. For example, I believe one time when the Kentucky Wildcats were rioting, they were called. Their situation was just called "Kids Gone Wild," or I think you could say a protest that has gone awry. They they don't villainize them, and in when it comes to blacks and what blacks are protesting for, we're constantly villainized. So those are just some few minute microaggressions that add to the whole entire problem, I guess.
Right, and I think that's the point, is that like while they might be micro, they contribute to the macro.
Exactly.
You know? I'm reading one of the comments that Anissa just sent. We went to high school with Anissa, so shout out to Anissa.
Hey, Anissa.
She's saying like, how can we get white people to learn that they're not meant to be leading conversations on racism and to listen to people of color when they speak on it? So that's a really good question, because like I kind of did start this conversation, and I have no problem like addressing my own privileges and missteps. So I kind of want to hi I kind of want to get a feel on like what you think about even doing something like this, you know, and was it my place to come to you and be like, hey, I want to do this thing, I think it could be really important, or is that a time where I should have stepped out of the way? What do you think?
I think that it's important that you utilize not only your platform, but your privilege to bring people who are like you and your followers who don't have a clear understanding of the issue. I think it's important that you started this and that you're willing to bring awareness and you're calling out to people who do have privilege to step up and do something. Right now, what you're doing, how you came to me and wanted me to be a part of this, that is using your privilege, and I think that's a great method in which you executed that. So yes, I think that was a great thing. And no, it's not you stepping out of boundaries, or it's you wanting to bring light to an issue that has been in the dark for a long time. So, and like I said, people are more receptive to your voice as opposed to mine, and black voices, like they are more willing to listen to you than they are of me. So I think that was actually quite brave and bold of you. I'm great. You know, I'm grateful.
And I don't mean to like, you know, be fishing for approval here, because it's not the duty of black people to give me validation for my work, you know.
Right.
But, and Anissa, I don't think you're attacking people. I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's a really good question about like what role do white allies, white people play in this kind of moment, you know, because I think it should be a secondary role, but like you said, like the majority of my followers, quite frankly, look a lot like me and have the same experiences that I do, and while that may not be intentional, it's about impact, right? And if half your people are watching this, we literally talked about that last night in allyship training. Like, while people may not intend to be racist or have the intention to have a negative impact, it's about the impact and about what it is that's happening. I'm just reading what's going on. But yeah. And also I think it's tough, right? Because I don't want to get into like an age issue, but I think it's prevalent to the moment, because a lot of white adults, a lot older than us, aren't going to be watching this, and they are the ones who might need to be watching this or something like this, you know. And I think it's hard because Instagram is a place where a lot of Gen Z and millennial are speaking out against the issue, but
right.
people who are the issue are probably aren't following me or you or watching this, you know?
Right.
So I wish there was a way to like, I don't know. I don't know what I wish. I just wish it was easier to address
Right.
those people, you know?
Yes. It is rather difficult to attain their attention, mainly because, like you said, they are a lot older than us and they've been set in their beliefs for so long that when you bring to them a different thought or a different mindset, that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. That breaks down their foundation of how they were living. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think it's very. I think it's
Oh,
important that
sorry.
we, as
Okay.
the no, it's okay. That generation. What are we? Generation Z, I believe.
Yeah, we're Gen Z, which yeah, we're the older Gen
Okay.
Z.
Right. Right. So I believe that it's important for Generation Z that when we start having kids to implement and to break down certain mindsets that have cursed the elders in our community for so long. So I do believe that since we are becoming more enlightened to what was hidden from us before, I think that it's going to make the change is going to be more evident and prevalent when we become 50, 60,
Yeah.
70 years old, you know?
I think I completely agree with that. And I have trouble voicing that because it is so far away.
Mm-hmm,
But I think about that all the time. Like
mm-hmm.
my kids, I will raise them in the ways that they should be raised, you know, anti-racist,
Right.
not
Mm-hmm.
just not racist, anti-racist. And
Anti. Yes.
I like that will not be for another 15 years or at
Mm-hmm,
least. And I
mm-hmm.
think a lot of it's the urgency, right? Like we want change right now, but
Right.
I'm not saying change has to be slow, but big change is always slow. And I
Right.
I just I struggle with right now. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think we're ever going to change those older people. And we can talk about
Yeah.
Donald Trump if you want to,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
um
Oh Lord, him.
like you're saying, like the change isn't going to come till we're older, but I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
know if you think there's any other ways. I'm not trying to egg you on to say everyone needs to vote, but I will say
Mm-hmm.
everyone needs to vote. But
Voting is it allows you to have somewhat of a voice and somewhat of a say who's in power. So I do believe that people should utilize that right before it's taken away from us somehow. No one ever
yeah,
knows in regards to the future of the United States. People are
yeah,
talking about martial law, a lot of that. So we need to take advantage of the right to vote. You can't, like, there are people of color all across the board that are, I guess you could say, in line for the Senate, House of Representatives. We need to put these people in office. You know what I'm saying? You're the governor,
absolutely.
the mayor for your town. Like, you can't just continue to complain if you don't utilize every single route of using your voice that America has given us. You know what I'm saying? So I think it is
Absolutely.
important. I do. I think it does help.
Yeah, and I'm sensing like some hesitation from you about talking about voting because I one of my jobs at Hofstra of the many is working on like a voting campaign. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm supposed to like register people to vote, right? And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times when we're being told to look at a comment.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We're going on, people.
I work in academics for student athletes. Our staff is largely the age group you wish were paying attention. How can we do better? How can we do better for our colleagues and student athletes? Ugh, yeah,
Okay. Um,
I don't know. What do you think? It's
um,
yeah, they're saying like how
we
can the older generation do better now, you
right.
know?
I'd say there has to be more dialogue between the those who are teaching and those who are learning. So there has to be more open dialogue. You have to reach out to your students and understand their struggles and understand their issues. And I'd say it all starts with, like, I'd say conversation. Maybe if you work in academics, you can utilize the role you have as a teacher to bring about conversation and to bring about certain areas that need to be discussed within, your students. So maybe that's a way, just opening up dialogue to break down ignorances that many people may have.
Yeah.
I'd say to maybe Black Lives Matter. I'd say, yeah. That's
Yeah.
just one way, but there's probably a whole bunch of different ways that we have to study and look
Yeah.
into.
Yeah. I mean, the only way I can think of is exactly the same thing. Like, I think white people get really defensive. As being a white
Mm-hmm.
person, white
Mm-hmm.
people get really defensive when anyone calls them out on
Mm-hmm.
anything, because you don't want to be perceived in a certain way, and I get that. But
Right.
I also get that if you aren't addressing the problem, you're never going to make change.
Exactly.
So I
You
think
have
the
to
best,
start making people uncomfortable. You have to make people uncomfortable. You have to call out their ignorance and call out their skewed perceptive of life and how the reality of things. So,
totally.
like, yeah, you can't expect change and expect, like, other people not to get uncomfortable with what you're standing for. And I think people in academics can really teach others and really expose them of their ignorance and their privilege and the bubble reality that they live in.
Yeah. No, you're so right. That's my best advice. And I feel like that's probably your best advice too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. Okay, so we've only almost been here for an hour,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine
An
with me.
hour already, dang.
I know, which is fine with me, but I know I don't want to
Same.
like hold you all day. So
It was okay.
let's talk about President Trump.
Okay.
How big of a role do you think he's playing in the issues? I know it's a big question, and I feel like the answer is obvious, but I don't know. Thoughts?
I believe President Trump is fueling a fire, basically. He's basically fueling a fire that's already done so much damage. I remember originally when he first went into office, right after the Obama administration, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, racism isn't prevalent in our country. There's no such thing as racism anymore." Remember that narrative that everyone was trying to push forward, but then
Ridiculous.
as soon as he got into office, the whole country, that people were basically closet racist during the Obama administration. But once Donald Trump came in, people got more bold and they got more unapologetic with their racism and started basically antagonizing others. Basically, it was really bad. I remember at one point there was an issue in South Carolina or North Carolina in 2017 where a whole bunch of white supremacists were angry about the Robert Lee statue being taken down, and it was caused a lot of issues. And it's just like, well, everyone wants to claim there isn't racism anymore, but as soon as your president gets into office, look what happened. People are getting bold again. So I just think that it's very obvious that he is a racist man, especially when the I guess you can say anti-quarantine people, those protesters went. Where was that at? Was that in Washington?
I thought that was Kentucky.
Okay. Well,
I thought it was one of the Midwest, but I might be wrong. I don't know. Somebody fact check us right now.
Right. Yeah. I please fact check me. Please correct me. Virginia. Okay. Wait.
I think Nethra is talking about. Hi, Nethra. I think he's talking about what you were talking about. Oh, I'm seeing Virginia. I'm seeing Michigan.
Okay. Well, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you know.
For not checking up on that. But his comparison and the way they were all okay. So the rioters that have recently been occurring, as opposed to the anti-quarantine protests, the way he described both groups was completely different. And one group was completely unarmed as opposed to another group that had assault rifles. So it's so clear that he's a very racist man. And going into, I don't know, I feel like we kind of have been in a setup in a way, because as soon as quarantine happened, so many people dropped out of the race, the 2020 race. And then the news with Joe Biden that about what he was doing a long time ago has just come to the surface. So now I feel like it's setting him up for re-election. So I feel like a lot of us are sleep to what's going on, where it's kind of a setup here, people. So we just have to navigate ourselves in a way that's going to benefit us, the citizens, as a collective, and black lives as collective, because we're gonna continue to be oppressed in his eyes. Like, I believe that he just sent, what did they say, the military on these protesters, or what
the National Guard
onto the protesters. So I don't know, he's very, it's just, I would have never thought that he would have been president right after Obama.
Yeah.
That's what I feel, at least.
Yeah. And it's hard, because I think you're right in that people like to say during the Obama administration, and even a little bit after, like, racism is done, it's over, or, like, it doesn't exist. But, like, that's just because we had a black president. Like, it was there the whole time. It was
exactly
just in the closet. Like, and it's now people, those racist people, I'm sorry, but people who are uneducated and ignorant, they're coming out of the woodwork, like I saw in the comments. And it's really sad that they're being supported by the leader of our country. And all I can say, like, is please, God, vote. Like, please, even if you don't believe in voting, just please, God, vote. Like,
right.
That's all I can say, like, I don't know. I want to say, like, what do you think? But, like, I just feel like I don't know what to do about, like, him anymore.
Yeah, someone said that it was in Michigan, and they have open laws of carry. And I'm like, okay, I understand that, but why does it have to be taken to that extreme, to where you bring heavy artillery to government buildings? Like, I just feel like, and there's no repercussions. Come on. But when these peaceful protesters are getting tear gas thrown in their face, and where they have to throw milk on their face to ease that pain, and they don't have any weapons, I really feel like it's so clear. You guys cannot continue to ignore the blatant racism that is in this country. There's no way around it. It's blatant. And no, it is. You have to step up.
And it starts, like we said, with recognizing. Never
said they stormed the Capitol building, and the police did nothing. They did not do a dang on thing. Excuse me, I almost cursed, but they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. Like, this can't be ignored, because this is blatant. And it's very frustrating for me, actually. It's just, it's very frustrating.
No, it should be. And your feelings are completely valid,
Yep.
Like Nethra said, though, like, you have to vote in every election. And I don't want to keep, like, saying voting, because I have this theory that somewhere along the line, voting became a white people's game. And it's only promoted to white people, and that's a whole other conversation we can have. But like, you have to vote in every election. If you want the prosecutors changed, if you want the DA changed, like, you have to vote in the smaller elections too. And we're, like, doing all this rioting and protesting, and it's important, but the change comes at the ballot box,
Yep, that's definitely one form of change that we all have to utilize. I agree.
Vote down the ballot. Leah's saying vote down the ballot. Does that mean, like, for the not the president, like everyone underneath too? Yeah.
Yeah. You have to vote down. You can't just vote at the top. There's so many other constituents that come before the top. So it's ignorant for anyone to believe that you can just vote for one position and that's going to institute any type of change.
Yeah.
Someone, Nethra said, bully your politicians at the ballot box. That's so true.
That's white privilege.
But the thing with Capitol building is that the police use getting crowded and feeling threatened to vindicate violence against protesters. Yes, that's so true. That, oh, I'm threatened. That narrative about, oh, I feel threatened. Oh my God.
And that makes them no better than Amy Cooper. I'm sorry.
Exactly,
but like.
Exactly. That's the same exact principle that's being utilized to express violence against these protesters, these peaceful protesters. You feel threatened? Come on. Our skin should not be a death sentence here.
No. And you're threatened by skin color. That's what they're threatened by, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't know, it's hard. I'm sorry. I'm trying to listen, but I'm getting like angry.
No, that's the thing. We need this type of emotion like to be triggered, because then, you know, it just helps out, because it just makes you more passionate about the situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to keep talking, but I don't want to keep you here forever. And it has been an hour. Is there anything like that anyone in the comments that's watching would like us to talk about, just as like a wrap up? Or Gabby, is there anything you want to talk about that we didn't talk about?
I think we covered everything. I have some notes here.
Go ahead. Rip out the notes. I'm ready.
We talked about Black women deaths and how we're in a patriarchal society. Those aren't getting the same amount of media coverage. Okay, so another thing that I did want to address that is kind of taboo is another form of oppression that Black people face is the human trafficking issue that has been going on in the United States.
Okay.
Some of these numbers display that a lot of Blacks are the main target. And I've read a couple articles, and they've said the reason why Blacks are constantly targeted in regards to human trafficking and sex trafficking is because many people who orchestrate these arenas do believe that with Black women who are often the victims, they won't receive the same amount of punishment in prison if they were to get caught. So I really think that in itself, because it says 62% of human trafficking suspects are African American, and this was a 2012 Department of Justice statistic that they provided, and 40% of domestic sex trafficking victims are in the United States are African American girls. So I really think that it's not just one avenue of oppression that we're looking at. We're looking at multiple different methods that these United States, the people that are in office, have applied pressure towards Blacks to oppress us, I guess. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up in that facet, I guess.
No, you're completely correct. And I think it also ties back to what we were talking about earlier about like Brianna, like we don't get that same amount of attention as women for anything. Mm-hmm. And especially Black women, like they don't get the same amount of attention as men do. And it's a serious issue. And I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. It's just, it's sad.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring some numbers to the attention because it's like there's just a lot of things that need to be deconstructed and then rebuilt. And the education system, unemployment rates regarding Black professionals, how we're twice as much likely to be unemployed, even Blacks with degrees, healthcare, especially in regards to the pandemic situation. In Louisiana, I believe that Blacks only took up 25% of the population in that state, but 70% of the deaths from COVID were from Blacks, and this was due to the lack of access and insurance and medical care and social safety net gaps and policies basically devaluing us, and then which brings forth health disparities. Like, it's in every avenue that we could possibly think of. So this is big changes, like you said, is going to take a long time. So that's all.
It's counting down. It's gonna it's gonna count us down.
Okay, crap. Okay.
Just to wrap it up, I wanted to say thank you so much for being here, and thank you to everyone who's watching. Let's keep the conversation going, after this. And we're getting invite her back, encore. But I think that's a good point. We will keep having these conversations, and I really appreciate you being open to talking to me about this. Yeah. Anything you want to say to end it?
No, we could definitely have another conversation. That's what we're saying. We also need to conversate about racism and healthcare. There's a lot of things that need to be discussed. So,
yeah, let's keep having
this was a good
conversation.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you,
We
everyone.
will keep having these conversations. I'm hoping to talk to more people. And I know Gabby will too. We will keep doing